special guest in the studio today.
My name is the Uduak Nakanga. My @ name is Uduak Nakanga on Twitter, and then Uduak_Nakanga on Instagram.
Hey guys, my name is Junior Izanu. I'm a student at the University of Texas at Arlington. I'm 21 years old, and y'all can find my YouTube at Fair Play Politics, and my Twitter is CallMeJRE.
Hello guys, my name is Isaiah King Littlejohn. You can find me at I am Isaiah King on Instagram, Twitter, and all platforms. Thank you.
So, how y'all's week been? We're gonna start off with that. How y'all's week been?
It's going.
How's been in quarantine? How y'all been in quarantine?
Is it still quarantine?
It's still quarantine. We still got little restrictions, but for the most part, everybody's outside. We outside.
Basically.
Y'all not?
I'm chilling.
So y'all ain't been doing nothing since the whole quarantine? Like anything at
I've been
all?
quarantining. I've been following the rules. I haven't been out. No partying, no clubbing, none of that.
Regulations, okay.
You know, it's been weird. You know, it's just like trying to find a balance of like being safe and then not doing too much. I don't know. It's like a weird time. It's like a real adjustment.
If they paid us to stay inside, more people would stay inside, but they're not trying to pay us, so
Right.
honestly.
That is true. I agree.
So tell us a little bit about your political background. How did you get into politics? How does that interest you? And we're gonna start off with Udo.
Okay, for me personally, I'm more into law than politics. A lot of people think it's the same, but to me it's really, really different. But I've been more into like the whole law and social justice aspect. Whenever I turned 16, I got serious about it. And then just from there, I've just been doing a lot of social work, a lot of like working with organizers, community organizers.
I've seen you working with Beto. Like, tell us a little bit more about
a little
that experience.
That experience was honestly, I hated El Paso, but I loved the experience, if that makes sense. Working with him kind of like just solidified like what I wanted to do.
Give you like a little bit more motivation.
Yeah, and like it kind of like just basically solidified the fact that I don't want to be in like political campaigns. But I really did appreciate and really enjoyed like the opportunity that was given, and especially like working with him personally. He's very like, what you see is what you get. He's not one of those like polished politicians that's going to tell you what you want to hear.
He's like real relatable, would you say?
Yes, yes.
Okay, and Junior, what about you? How did you get into politics? Do you have a political background? Is your family in politics?
My family's not in politics. I got into politics just at, I guess, a very young age. I really enjoyed learning about history, demography, geography. I'm just a fan of education and just learning about the world. And I guess as I got older, I wanted to find like a channel to, you know, improve my community and just those that I care about in where I live. So I feel like the political arena, whether it's on the local level, the state level, or national level, is a great way to just better the lives of yourself and those around you as well. So that's kind of why I'm really interested in it. And yeah, so currently I'm actually interning with a congresswoman from California. I'm interning in her office, but I'm doing it virtually this semester. And I'm really enjoying it. I just think that the more...
Could you repeat that? I'm sorry, you say you intern with the who?
A congresswoman from California. I'm not gonna say her name.
I was going to say don't say the name.
But yeah, but it's really it's a great opportunity. It's a blessing to be doing it because, you know, opportunities like this can help us, you know, get our foot in the door and just do great things in the future and improve the lives of our community. So that's why I'm really appreciative of it.
Okay, and Isaiah, you?
Well, me, when it comes to getting involved in politics, honestly, when I look back at my younger self, I could have never seen myself, you know, really being as interested as I was. Originally, I wanted to be a soccer player, a basketball player, anything that most kids that grow up in, you know, communities that look like us, you know, come from. You know, we want to do the typical things. And you know, I just always was interested in history, watch the History Channel and just feed my mind. And whenever I started to learn more about the history of my people and gain knowledge of self, it brought me closer to, you know, wanting to enact change. And when I saw people like Barack Obama get in office, just showing me that it's possible, you know, it made me be more interested in politics and want to dive deeper into it and really develop a passion for it. So that's kind of how I kind of got into it. And that was toward the end of my high school career when I started having to like figure out who I really wanted to be. And I really wanted to get involved in politics and want to do things in the community, you know, so that's kind of how it started.
So what's crazy is I don't even have no segue for this, but we just gonna hop right into it. We're gonna take some shots. We're gonna take some shots. You know.
Cheers.
There's
water in
pour
here,
me up
guys.
right there.
Yeah, I think that's yours. That's yours, right?
I'm good.
Okay.
To loosen everybody up.
I'm focused.
But how do y'all feel about the current state? Like, you know, the attack on the Capitol was
The terrorist attack?
Right. Oh, terrorist attack on the Capitol was a little bit crazy. So how do y'all feel about that? Oh, you got some? You didn't take yours? So you cheated. You gotta take another one.
Okay, we taking it
Should
together?
make you
Yeah, we're
take
taking
two.
another one. You want one?
Oh, I got one.
Okay. Two. This is a tradition of the show. Everybody gotta take at least 2 shots.
At least 2 shots.
At least 2. This is
Trying to
like
find
this is
somebody.
y'all be on shit. Y'all be out.
You ready?
Yeah. All right.
All right, cheers.
Cheers. We got them folks in the back.
No, but restate your question about the Capitol attack.
So yeah, how do y'all feel about that Capitol attack? What are your views on that? What are your views? Like, do you think that it should have been a different way? Like, obviously, you know, they stormed the Capitol, so it's just kind of like, it's just crazy how, you know, when you look at the government, it's that fragile. It's kind of like the White House. It's like, imagine someone storming the White House. You know,
It's
what I'm saying?
honestly sad, to be honest. It's embarrassing.
It's embarrassing. Al Qaeda, I said that like a couple episodes ago. Like Al Qaeda and other terrorist groups are looking at us like as a joke.
I feel like the whole storming of the Capitol basically goes to show how comfortable white people are,
Right.
and how too comfortable that they can get.
Mhm.
And everybody already knows. Like, if that was Black Lives Matter,
It would
if
have been a
that was,
massacre.
no, for real.
Like for real, we wouldn't even got past the first steps. Like, not trying to be funny, but it would have been like a massacre.
Just to speak on that, I don't know, I might take just a different angle of looking at it. Like, I feel like it's a very tragic thing that's happening, but I feel like it's things that just our nation was on a one-way track course for reaching. It's like no way that we wouldn't get to this situation where you would see these type of events. So I honestly look at it as something that was predetermined and predestined to happen, because our
Pre-planned.
country is just so reliant on, like, you know, the systematic aggression of both races, you know, between black people and white people. It's just gonna rear to its head. So it's like either we're gonna deal with it now or we're gonna wait a few more years, but at some point you're gonna see even more things happen like this, where flares, like, people's tempers are gonna rage and they're gonna wanna do whatever they believe is right. So, and you know, Trump definitely didn't, you know, help with that in any way, so it just brings it out even more. So I just feel like it's something that needed to happen, if it makes sense, because it's just so many, at some point everybody's gonna explode,
Right.
regardless of where they stand.
I wanted to respond to something that both Uduak and bro, I'm blanking on your name.
Isaiah.
Isaiah said, and they brought up some really good points on both sides of that. First point is that this thing only happened because they didn't take the threat from the white people serious. They were like, nah, the white people, they're not gonna kill nobody. They're not gonna run up into the Capitol. Had it been Black Lives Matter, you know that was not gonna happen.
Right.
And it just shows that we don't take white domestic terrorists
Seriously.
We don't take serious. We only take the serious when it's Arabs or it's black nationalists or stuff like that.
But what's crazy is, you know, the politicians were in on it. You know, it's kind of like a pre-planned attack.
Some, allegedly.
There was cops that were in on it,
Right.
army veterans and stuff. But
But that's what I'm saying.
misleading.
Yeah, that's
even
what
just
they're not getting that.
Feedback.
Trump is looking for the rich, you know, like the wealthy, the elite. He's not looking at the everyday white people. Like, he's not looking at y'all.
Yeah, but like they say, if you divide people
And he did not even give y'all pardons. So now y'all in
true.
jail looking like a fool, thinking that Trump was going to give y'all some pardons. Like,
And even just to piggyback, you know, it's been like that since this nation's inception. You know, the one thing that basically facilitated slavery to happening is because most of the times the people that would even work on those plantations were just as poor, or if not poorer, than the people that they were abusing. So in a sense, they've always taught white people that whatever you do, you can never be as low as the black person. So it's kind of like even facilitated through that. Like, people that are just as poor go through the same exact things, will raid the White House in thinking that they're actually fighting for something when we're actually all in the same position. You know?
like LBJ said, if you tell the poorest white man that he's better than the richest black man,
Yeah.
he won't mind that you're picking his pocket. Hell, he'll give you he'll give you his wallet. He'll be like, oh, bet, take my wallet. So that's the thing. When you divide people off on race, they forget that classism is the bigger issue. Yeah.
Without racism, you can't have racism without classism. You can't have classism.
I was
without
confused on why were people confused on the fact that, oh, they're not acting soon enough, or like, you know how the video went viral of the police officers that were letting the protesters or the terrorists inside the.
that's the thing. That's why I know that they were in on it.
Yeah, it's like they're part of the same team, so it's just like you can't even expect that much out of it.
So besides the Capitol attack, what would y'all say is the biggest political issue right now? Like, what is like on the main stage besides the attack? What would you say over the course of the past 6 months, 3 months, just anything current?
Did you want to go first?
Yeah, I can. I was just going to say, I feel like the biggest issue right now is, and it might be different than what most people would view, but I think the most important problem is mindset. And I say mindset because I feel like we're entering into, or we could possibly be entering into a new age and a new era of thought, because most of the times the first 20 years of each century, that's normally sparks like basically where we're finna go, what direction we're finna lead in. And right now it's looking like we're changing the mindsets. We're basically telling you that old framework of the typical suit and tie white person that doesn't care about minorities, that doesn't care about what can be progressing the greater good of humanity. You know, we're kind of starting to kill that mindset, and we kind of did that with Trump. You know, he's the typical person that we've always had to deal with throughout the history of time, and we basically shot him down. So it's like, I feel like the most important thing right now is just mindsets. You know, like, are we going to allow those certain mindsets to come where we're going, or are we going to stop them now while we can?
Do you think people's political views change over time, or do you think that, you know, a Republican is going to be Republican forever, Democrat is Democrat, and there's no switching up? What do y'all think?
Can I go back on the other question real quick? That I wanted to say, like, in my opinion, the biggest political issue that we need to start like realizing is like economic status and social status, especially with the whole stock market. Sound
it out.
Because my tongue twist or whatever. I just feel like the whole not even wage gap, but like the whole distinction between the rich and the poor. I just feel like that's a big issue. In my opinion. Did you want to answer that?
Yeah, in my opinion, I think like the biggest issue right now, but this one is pertinent to me, may not be to the average person, is looking at the parties and looking at what they actually stand for. So for instance, I'm a progressive Democrat, right? But if you look at what the Democrats campaign on this past election cycle, it's on economics, it's giving people money and this, that, and the third. Now they're in power. They control all three branches of all of the Senate, House, and the presidency. But they're over here trying to compromise with Republicans to give us shit, like, not even give us nothing, right? So that's something you have to keep your eyes on and push these guys to actually get done what they said. They're over here talking about a $1,400 stimulus check bill being proposed in April or March, when they said they were going to do it within the first week of Joe Biden's presidency.
My thing is, so many people went homeless, so many people lost businesses, and for Nancy Pelosi and other, I guess, law officials to say $600 is enough for an American family. Like, nowadays you have to kind of have two jobs to, you know, survive. Like, so $600, and then y'all are already procrastinating on the the stimulus check. So like, what are families going to be doing in between time? You know, if you care about the American people, you would have done it right away. If you were like a senator or whatever, what would you do? What would you change, or what would you implement? How would you go about that whole situation? Or
the way I would tackle it is, you have to remind people that the most important thing in your life is having the bread and eggs and just having food on your table. After all that, we can deal with everything else. If people are able to eat well, people are able to feed their families, put a roof over live in a home, right? Have shelter. Then there will be more compromising on other things, right? But whenever people are economically frustrated,
speak up a little bit too. Sorry.
Oh, my bad. Whenever people are economically frustrated and they feel like there's no out for them. And I was reading a book called Hillbilly Elegy, and it talks about why many working class white people in the Midwest and in the South left the Democratic Party, went to the Republican Party. Many of them went there because they were racist, for sure, but many went because they're like, fuck, like, the economics in the system.
We're not cursing on here now.
Oh, my bad.
No,
but like, that's what they said in the book. They're like, bro, neither party cares about me. I'd rather stick with the Republican Party because I agree with them more on social issues. But if we as Democrats or progressives remind people of what's more important and then fight for them and give them and help them get better jobs, give them more money, put more money in their pockets, let them have health care, I feel like we can unravel the issues that we have, and those that may claim to be Republican now will be willing to go back to a more progressive outlook.
I feel like as a whole, as a black community, as a whole, we need to start looking at policy and not party, because the Democrats, they put up this front that they are for the people, that they are for the progressive of the black community, but I feel like they've been using us for a token for the last, since Obama got elected. So I feel like as a black community, we need to actually hold ourselves like to the standard of demanding things, as far as reparations, as far as like
do you really think that they're gonna give us every black person American reparations?
You have to start somewhere.
They're not gonna do that.
They said the same thing about $15.
They're not gonna do that.
They said the same thing about minimum wage 5 years ago, but look at us now, we're a step closer. I feel like you have to start somewhere, and we can't be like, they're not going to do this, they're not going to do this. If we had that mentality, then where would we be as a community? We have to, like, at some point, start somewhere.
But you don't think people have already been doing that? You don't think people over the years been asking for reparations and demanding things like?
But it's different. I feel like, no, I understand.
We're in a new era.
We're in a new way of like thinking, and like he was stated earlier, we're in a new way of thinking. We're in a new way of like going about things that didn't work when our parents went through or didn't work when our grandparents went through. We have to like attack the issues in a different way, if that makes sense, to demand and get what we want at the end of the day.
And I think social media is a big thing. If we just at the politicians or at whoever we need to catch their attention, like what are you gonna say?
I was just gonna say I like the answers that both people have stated, but I also will say like I feel like the only way to really see change in the nation that we're in is to change our approach, because most politicians, they go about it as if I need to go so hard with the policy. But for me, I believe that change within any type of person, organization, organism starts within itself. So I feel like the only way that we can really see change is if somebody comes through and creates a mindset in which holds each person accountable into getting the more equitable world that we want to live in, that suits everybody. And we can only do that if we create a climate in which everybody feels like they're appreciated and that their life matters and that I have purpose and that me standing up for this, me voting, me participating.
Come on, Jesse Jackson.
You know
Come on.
I feel like that's really the way that we can change it. We got to change the approach.
Come on.
We've been looking at policy to change the world for how many years, and if we rely on policy, it's just never going to happen.
But the thing is, without policy,
we do need policy.
Okay, so what are y'all political views? You say you're a progressive.
I'm independent.
Independent. So who you be voting for?
but the thing is, like
You vote for all independents?
no, but
No,
like, what's your ideology?
Well, when I say independent, I'm more so going based off like not the person, not the party, but more so
Your morals.
Not even morals, what they have to offer.
Okay.
I'm looking strictly on what they have
It
to
just
offer.
depends
their
on the
policy.
candidate.
Yeah, it depends.
But what's like your ideological leaning? Like, are you more liberal? Are you more conservative?
Others will describe it as more liberal, but
Wait,
I'm-
liberal?
yeah,
Like
Okay.
socially or economically? Like which one?
socially.
Socially.
But then again, honestly,
Look, I'm so confused on this
in
topic.
this,
I'm
I
like,
feel like it's just more so what floats my boat
Yeah.
at that given time. Like it changes.
Yeah, I feel that. My party is the greater good of humanity.
Okay.
That's my party.
yeah.
Whichever party is coming with what I feel like is more equitable into seeing a greater society and a greater planet, I'm
And
for
for
that.
our community
And a
too.
greater community, I'm for that. That could be whichever political party it could be. I don't discriminate. It's only based on what policies they're coming with, and is your policy in the greater good of all people. You know, that's kind of my focus.
Okay. Y'all want to take another shot?
No, I'm good.
Yes. But Biden, y'all's first candidate. Honestly, I know everybody voted for Biden because that was the better choice. But do you think
Allegedly.
he's gonna live up to his promises or whatever that he said that he was gonna do for his campaign?
No.
It's not.
He's like, no.
possible.
Because the issue is like
So why'd you vote for him?
I voted for Biden because I
That's
That's
assuming
two
that-
evils.
I believe in voting, in the lesser of the two evils. But I don't even view Biden as an evil,
Right.
to even compare to Donald
But
Trump.
no,
I didn't vote for
Biden did a
Biden.
lot of stuff.
Yes, if you
I didn't
compare,
vote for
if you
him.
compare,
You
Bi-
didn't?
No,
if you compare,
I wrote my vote in.
Who? Kanye?
No.
Let me find out
God
she voted for
forbid.
Kanye.
God forbid.
She
No.
she already said she independent. You voted for Kanye.
I promise you, I did not. I'm not. No.
What are you saying, Junior?
yeah, but no, I was saying that like I voted for Bernie. So the issue is when people start comparing Biden and Trump. Trump is a threat to democracy. After everything else, that guy wants to be a tyrant. He wants to be a dictator. So the thing with Biden is Biden's not going to accomplish half of what what he proposed because of how typical corporate moderate Democrats act. They're very careful to do anything. Biden could do a lot of stuff through executive order, right? But he's afraid to do that because he wants to revert back to the way that the government has been ran in the past. Donald Trump did so much damage just through executive order alone.
Right.
Biden could do so much good through executive orders. And the other issue is in the Senate, Democrats have 50 votes, right?
Right.
We have the majority through the tiebreaker with the vice president.
Wait, question. Is Kamala is the tiebreaker, right?
She's the tiebreaker.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the issue is you can't pass any substantial legislation without getting 60 votes because of something called a filibuster. The filibuster is where like a senator can talk for hours to days,
Yeah.
and by doing that they can kill the bill. And if you don't have 50 Democrats that support getting rid of the filibuster, you can't pass anything substantial. So,
But the thing is, I mean, the Democrats have the majority of the Senate, right? So
but
I
They
mean,
have a
either
majority. Don't
right,
Yeah.
but either way, it's like the Democrats are always gonna come out on top since they have the majority vote, and then the tiebreaker is Kamala.
that's not true because you have something called conservative Democrats in the Senate. So with the Democratic Party is not a party that's like, oh, we're pro-black, we're pro-this. The Democratic Party is a big tent party, and they have many different factions. So some senators in the Democratic Party are going to vote against the Democratic Party
Yeah.
a lot of times.
Really?
like
You
Joe.
said the people in the Democratic Party will vote against their own party?
Yes.
Why though? Just
Nobody's
because they
really-
don't agree with that person.
Nobody's really one party. Like everybody has, you know, you might have Republicans that sometimes lean liberal in certain instances.
So basically, you can kind of say they're independent in their own party,
Basically.
kind of.
There's
Right?
not really one party. It's just we all agree on this one thing.
The Republican Party is more ideologically congruent. Most of them are more on that same path. Democratic Party is widespread.
More
like,
widespread. Like, you have your AOCs of the world, but then
Right.
you have
I like
your
AOC.
conservative.
Joe Manchin.
Yeah.
Why you look like that?
What?
When I said like AOC, you said.
No, I respect AOC.
Yeah.
The problem with Democrats like her is that they lack strategy.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that Republicans, it's the
That's
truth.
why I looked at you. I was like,
Yeah, the reason that Republicans will have the minority in many things and still push stuff through because they're very strategic and they're smart.
Yeah.
Democrats suck at politics. We suck at politics. Republicans they'll have something that's very unpopular, but they will pass it every single time because they're very strategic and they know how to work the channels
Yeah.
of government. And Democrats don't.
I mean, when it comes to just is Biden gonna accomplish everything he said, it's impossible for a person to accomplish everything that they said. Like I think that's just part of this, you know, system that we're in. It's like, you know, like that's why I'm like we have to change something because for so many years we've been doing the same thing and it hasn't worked. At some point we have to look within our own communities and figure out how we are going to equitably get to where we want to go because change, politics matter, don't get me wrong.
They
We
do.
need to
It
focus
does.
on that, but we have to focus on our community.
Honestly, like, you know, Biden, he has done a lot. I think he was responsible for, I think, like, you know, that whole 80s
Yeah, he did the
crime
crime bill. I'll
epidemic.
never forgive him.
So,
for that.
you know,
It's a
it's
nice
a lot
crime
of
bill.
people in jail because
I'll
of
never-
Biden.
Never forgive
But
him
at the
for that.
same time, you know, people, you know, like I said, people's views change over time. And then what were you trying to say? What were you going to
You
say?
asked us that earlier, do people's views change over
Yeah,
time?
because I feel
agree
like
to that
Biden's
to a certain
changed.
extent, but when it comes to politics, here's one thing that I live by. In politics, if you ever want to judge how somebody really thinks, you have to judge them by their past.
I feel like our problem today is that we go for these polished politicians that get back to reality and
Right.
like go back to our basics as far as like putting people in these government officials that are in our positions, that are the everyday people that understand the everyday struggle. So putting, like, if you look at the Senate, if you look at the Congress, if you look at the majority of the people who are representing us, what do they look like? Who do
Right.
they look like? Who are they representing? I feel like that's where the main issue comes from. People try so hard to be polished. People try so hard to hide their like their downfalls, the negative aspects of them, and it's just like it's not reality. It's not.
Yeah, it's not.
And I wanted to respond to what you said about the crime bill for 1994 crime bill. Another
I feel like I'm on CNN. I ain't gonna lie, but
other thing you brought up. And yes,
come on, Don Lemon.
please. No, but like, yeah, Biden supporting that was terrible. And the problem is,
Look,
Oh, I'm sorry. He
shout out to
did.
Don Lemon. He gonna see this. I'm gonna send it to him.
but no, I'm against like the crime bill and everything, and all the people that supported it supported a terrible bill. But we have to keep in mind, and this is one reason I didn't like Biden, because he supported the crime bill. Most black politicians and black people and the average American supported that bill and all the bills in the 80s and 90s.
You said black people?
Black people supported that bill like crazy because the target was a lot of the crime that's happening in the inner cities, and people were taught that if we pass this bill, we're gonna legislate this and then lock away the bad criminals. Well, politicians that voted for that bill were not just like white Republican conservative or white moderate Democrats that conservative. Many black liberals supported that as well, which is like what people never take into account. Many people that you would call progressive for that time supported that bill, and it's because they thought that it was a thing for the greater good. It was going to put away the bad people into jail,
Right.
and like clean up our streets. And that was the ideal, even though that it later kind of hurt everybody. It hurt the poor, especially poor black people.
So tell me the difference between, because I am not into politics. You know, when I pick a candidate, I just, you know, I kind of just do research on that candidate to see, okay, who's the lesser of two evils, and I pick. I'm just, you know, I'm gonna be honest, but tell me more about, like, okay, what's the difference between progressive and liberal views? What's the difference?
Okay.
Anybody can answer.
So for me, a progressive is somebody that supports a much more equitable world for all Americans and people as a whole. So they'll support Medicare for all, which is providing every single American with government-funded insurance. A liberal is somebody that's they support healthcare for people, but they'll support it with a public option. So meaning that you'll have a private insurance industry that will try to rip off Americans, but then you also have a public insurance industry that will allow you the option to buy government-funded insurance, but you still have to pay a lot of taxes on that. Progressive wants everybody to be covered, but even in a public option.
But that's kind of at the same time that's kind of unrealistic.
You know, it's very realistic.
Depending on who you ask.
You said it's very realistic.
Yeah, because
depending on who you ask,
Because look at Europe, right?
Yeah.
All of Western Europe has universal health care in one form or another.
Yeah, they do.
It's only America that doesn't have it, and why don't we have it? Because our healthcare industry cares about profit margins. The goal in Europe is we want to save lives.
Right.
In Canada, they want to save lives. But,
so that's the thing. Why don't you think people voted for Bernie? Because I just feel like he's the ideal candidate. Y'all done let him down twice. And like Biden is cool, but Bernie would have been the more ideal candidate. So why don't you think that no one picks for Biden? I mean,
okay, I feel like this country's not ready for someone like Bernie. First with this country when it comes to like speaking about, whenever it has something to do with the betterment for all people, it's always the main question, how are we going to pay for it? How are we going to pay for it? How is this going to happen? But the same
budget.
energy,
y'all have a budget for everything else.
But the same energy isn't implemented or isn't like talked about when we talk about military spending, when we talk about putting money back in Wall Street, stuff like that. So whenever it comes to like the people, the betterment for the people as a whole that this country is supposedly based off of, why is it that y'all want all these like 21, why are we playing 21 questions for?
The thing to keep in mind is that like this country was birthed off capitalism, so like this country can never be that. That's why it gets confusing to me, is because we're looking for something to be that this country was just never designed for it to be.
But at the same time,
and we have to face that reality.
But at the same time, I would disagree with that because Social Security is a socialist program, welfare socialism, Medicaid and Medicare socialism. America is capitalist in a sense, but America is capitalist in a sense, but many things that we have in this country are socialist. And for example, socialism already happens everywhere in America. Just the rich get the socialist programs. They get bailed out. A bailout from the government is socialism because it's coming from taxpayer money. It's just socialism that goes to the rich. Whenever they give us a stimulus check, that's socialism. Socialism that goes to the working class and the middle class, right?
So you think that this country was designed to make it to where we all can exist in a great way?
No.
That's a reach.
Like he said.
But we can evolve and make it better. That's the thing. I believe that.
But it's like the hard thing about that is, it's like if I design something to be systemically racist and to oppress people in the beginning, how am I going to now try to change something that's already been established for like 100?
But it's not our part to change. That's what a lot of people try to like say. What can black people or what can we do as a people to change the system? We can't change a system we didn't create to begin with. I feel like at the end of the day, it falls in the hands of the white male. Black people, as in general, we put too much pressure on ourselves. We put too much pressure on our community, and we put too much pressure as.
You can open. You want to edit that out? We're about to wrap up.
Yeah, they're about to wrap up.
All right, we got 10 minutes, 5 minutes.
Oh, I was going to say we put too much pressure as a community, as individuals, as a whole, that we're trying so hard to change a system that we can't change. We didn't create the system. I'm so sorry, but this is where the conversation comes in when people say that black people have to be more selfish when it comes to our spaces. Like, black people want equality, but I don't know if y'all know about the whole, like, when people say support black businesses, like, hold on, I'm going like mind blank right now. Just like the whole concept of just equality plus
I think
separation.
we messed up when we were thinking of that. If that's where you're going, like I think like if our ancestors could come back and see how things are today, I think they would have a different approach.
Yeah.
Because we wanted equality, yes we do, but at the same time when you ask for equality, you're kind of shorting yourself.
Exactly.
When it comes to self-sufficiency, because we're just wanting. Now our mindset is we don't just want to be. We don't just want to, like, we want to be at the same table, but we want our own table. But but we can get.
Not you wanting segregation.
Yeah.
We're just too selfless.
Yeah.
We're too selfless. We're trying. I feel like black people, we're always trying to include everybody.
Yeah.
And
I don't understand that because the trauma that black people have went through, I'm surprised we're not as, like, more pissed than what we are now.
That's exactly.
We should be like.
But that's how we've been taught how we get changed.
But what else can we do at this point? Because at this point, y'all not hearing us, y'all not feeling us. So at this point, we need to separate ourselves and do what's better for us as a community. Because these white folks are not going to take us seriously. Because we've been saying change is going to come for how many years?
Before we got to wrap it up. So before we leave, let me ask y'all. I know y'all are into activism, Black Lives Matter. Have y'all? What rallies or protests have y'all been to in Dallas or out of Dallas pre-COVID?
Rally or protest I've been in was actually in the summer.
Okay.
But that was like in the midst of quarantine. That's the last.
Was
time
that
there was a Dallas
George
one.
Floyd?
No, there was one. No.
Is that?
There was an NSARS one, but it's not really like.
I understand.
But
Yeah.
But it was after the one in no, not summer, last semester.
Okay.
But it was after the Denton one, if you remember.
Yeah.
The last
So on the square.
protest that I attended was in D.C. back in like October. It was whenever Breonna Taylor's the people that killed her. I think they were charged with like some minor crimes. They weren't even charged with murder.
They were charged for, I think, putting bullets in the hole.
Yeah.
And I mean in the wall. Like, that is the most craziest crime or whatever charge that you can get. So the police officers are charged for destruction, basically. Someone just really died and y'all charge these people with destruction. But back to your point.
Yeah, but, that was the last one I went to.
Okay. And Isaiah?
Yeah, the last protest I went to, I mean, when it comes to, we're talking about protests, it was around when George Floyd died. When it comes to just organizing, around election time, when I hosted a march to the polls and things like that. So, yeah, that was the last one.
Do y'all ever get emotional? Because I went to the protest in Denton, and I just got so emotional. Like, I really had to leave early because, like, you know, I'm protesting and saying all the chants, but, like, literally the whole time I'm crying. Like,
Me personally, I don't get emotional during protesting unless like they're tear gassing us. The last time the last time the last time I actually cried when it came to Black issues was actually in the beginning of January. I was in Atlanta and I went to the Civil Rights Museum out there. And then it was the stuff that I seen. It wasn't no surprise, but then again, it's just like, yo, you don't realize like
they really been through this.
Yeah,
you know.
So I shed a few tears, but you know,
I think like after like I said, like right after high school is when I began to really get deep into this work. And like after a while of being into this work, it makes you numb to a lot of things. And I'm gonna like explain this because you've been marching for so many. Like when you've been participated and been involved in this line of work that we're talking about, it can get to the point where you're now like, what comes next? Because we've been marching for so many years. We also remember there were times when our people were thriving and we were creating
we're growing
a lot of extraordinary things. So you gotta balance the good, the bad, terrible history, but you also have to remember the great things that our ancestors were able to do. And we gotta make that an equal focus because it keeps us from reacting so passionately to things that they want us to react to. If that makes sense.
Appreciate y'all for coming out. I really do. See you guys later.
Subscribe to Hot.
Oh, so if you guys have any YouTube, like you can say it again, but
honestly, just search my name Uduak. Something's gonna pop up somewhere.
Uduak, Uduak.
I am Isaiah King on everything, man. Just, tap in with the movement.
These are young activists. We're in they're based in the DFW. Junior.
My YouTube is Fair Play Politics, and Twitter is Call Me JRE.
Yeah, take a look at these people. Take a look at their accounts. They're doing great things in the city. Like I said, we're wrapping up. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys later. Hey.